Hello and welcome. I'm Patricia Capella, Conference Manager with the Clarion Events Food and Beverage Group. I'm excited to introduce founder of Service with Style, Darren Denington, and longtime speaker of the food shows, who will discuss Get Your Plan in Place, 7 Steps to Your Business Comeback. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items to keep in mind. All audience members are in listen-only mode, which means you are muted. We will be monitoring audience engagement on the dashboard, and we do encourage you to participate by using the question pane. Darren will speak for about 35 to 40 minutes with time for questions and answers at the end. This webinar, as well as others in our series, will also be made available on our website, foodandbevshows.com, in the coming week. Now, without further delay, Darren, would you like to take it away?
Well, thanks, Patty, and thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be talking today. I think the restaurant industry obviously is in distress, and there's good, smart things that we can do to bring your business back. So I want to talk to you about some simple steps. I'm going to be short. I'm going to be to the point. I find that webinars are great to pick up a few tidbits, a small, simple plan. I always encourage people to make a few simple notes that genuinely pertain to you. And what I really want to start off is this is creating a plan. This is creating a new roadmap for your business. And Amy and Patty and I have been talking a little bit behind the scenes before we went on today, where the last time we saw each other was the New York Food Show. So it was March 8, 9, 10, I believe it was, 9, 10, 11, and New York City. And we were at the show where the NBA had just canceled and the NHL just postponed, and the show beside us had canceled, and we literally slipped in for one of the last shows. So I came back from New York and I hunkered down, right? We were in New York, so let's get smart and self-quarantine for a little bit. So during that time, literally on day one, it started becoming very apparent that there was going to be massive differences. So I went into planning mode. The way that I look at every plan is a real short term. Well, what's the next little, right? The 3-month plan, and then I want to start looking for the future. So that's really what we started doing as soon as the pandemic started. Now, I also own a restaurant, so we had a plan for that. And the plan was always really short term, right? This has been changing and changing and changing. It's really hard to catch up with. So we wanted to understand the 1 week, right? We got to figure out what we're just doing this week. The timeline becomes very difficult to plan for right now. So I want to look at the next 3 months, right? I don't think that there's going to be a lot that changes, and I'm fairly aware that some restaurants are able to open at more capacity as we get through this. But for the next few months, the habits of the guests, the habits of the staff, the marketing, the image, the fear factor is not going to drastically change. So what I really want to challenge you is the 1 week plan. We're going to talk about the 3-month, but I want you thinking about where your restaurant is going to go. I think we can all agree that this has been an industry that is very tricky, very challenging, and there's a lot of moving parts. I think that this is a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal time to sit back and say, what type of business do I want to be when we really come back? Now, what that is in the next 3 to 6 months might be completely different than what you grow into. So today we want to talk about timing, the decision on reopening or staying with takeout or just holding off through the summer. Then we're going to talk about the financials. There's been a massive impact on this. I know that the PPP is affecting a lot of decisions right now. There's a lot of restaurants received it, right? It was fantastic. And now they've got such a short window, and some states they can't even open or open more than 25 or 50%, and they're obligated to spend all this money. So there's a major challenge on that. And I know that Congress is hopefully going back to the table to extend the timeline, but we want to talk about timing a little bit. Then I'm going to challenge you on the financials, the labor cost, what you're doing right now to make sure that when you come back, you're going to be a little bit more financially protected. Maybe we can start thinking about emergency funds and doing the financial piece right. The model, this is where I feel the industry has been really challenged, that we get into this great big menu and all the hours in the world, and we're going to open up for breakfast, and let's add on lunch, and let's do curbside, and we need more equipment, and we grow and grow and grow. The profit model is incredibly slim, as we all know. when you're running a really good restaurant and you're in the 12 or 15%, that's pretty decent. Most restaurants that I deal with regularly are in single digits, right? And there's a lot of people that struggle, and it's a tricky business because there's so many moving parts. There's so many things that we have to take care of every day that a lot of other businesses don't. So I find that you chase your tail every day and you try to work harder and faster and harder and faster, and all the pressure and all the problems come in. I want to try to simplify that. I want you to look at your model. If breakfast isn't opening, then isn't working, why open for breakfast again? Then we're going to talk about the guest, the guest perspective. Right now, as we are today, the the feeling is much more based on, oh, I'm just glad to be able to go back to a restaurant, or we're happy that you're open. I've been cooking at home, so I just want a good meal. And there's not a lot of emphasis right now put on the service and the connection and what we've come to know and love about the hospitality industry. But that piece is going to come back really quick. What we learned back in 2009 and 10 with the financials is that we held on to our dollars, right? It was a lot to bring the guests back into the restaurant. And when they came back, they wanted value. They wanted great portions. They wanted interaction. They wanted a memorable experience. So although today is not critical for the guest perspective, it will be very soon. And when you throw in so many different factors of what the guest is going through today, you have to be thinking about the guest. Then we're going to talk about staff. How do you bring them back? What's the labor market looking like right now? And how do you rebuild this team? When I was in New York, I had a presentation called Total Team Makeover. And if any of you have ever seen me present before, right, I give out a lot of little yellow stress balls. And to me, this represents 85% of the stress that comes into your business. And that's your employees. And that's all their problems and all their issues that get dumped on you every day. So you now have to manage them. That stress and that time constraint takes you away from working on the things that are really good. So we want to reset the staff. And I got a few tips for you on what you should be doing right now to slowly rebuild your team. And it is going to be a slow rebuild. Then we're going to touch base just a little bit on marketing, kind of the message that's out there right now and what we see that's working and maybe a few things to stay away from. And then we want to talk a little bit about what the future of the restaurant industry might be. When this first started, right back in early March for me, I looked at it as three different segments. And we went into, as an industry, into sanitation mode very, very quickly. And we figured out a lot of things, right? We extra sanitation bottles and disposable towels and washing utensils from the buffet every 10 minutes and all these little things that we did to protect the safety. So that went really quick because then we instantly went into survival mode. And survival mode for a lot of people has been pivoting, and you continue to move and pivot and change and rearrange your business as the needs continue to change. So the survival mode is what we're in right now. It's just trying to pull in a few dollars if you are in fact open, to keep that core team, to keep your lights on. But what I always wanted to be planning for was the comeback. And the comeback is what we're going to talk a lot about today, is how to build it stronger and how to advance your business forward so that you have the restaurant that you really want. When I was at New York for Total Team Makeover, I was talking a lot about building blocks. And this is how I've been looking at the industry a lot for the past couple years, that I felt that if there's a good, strong foundation, right, those correct building blocks were put down first, then you had the ability, the strong foundation, to work on some really good things. So if you had your staff, your leadership, and your systems in place, then you could handle the next stages. So I always felt that it started and stopped with a great management team. You need a good, strong leadership. If that management team put in the right systems to manage their day-to-day business, then that helped them build the right staff. That right staff then respected the leadership had the systems, and we all worked together. And you took care of the daily stress, the majority of it. Then this strong management team can start looking at what's next. We need to work on our menu. We should do a POS system. Let's really focus on marketing. So as long as you had the foundation, you started building on these next blocks. Well, what has changed is now we're in this time frame area. based on restrictions and based on your particular business, everybody's in a different place right now. So I want you to look at this as a couple different stages of timing and think about what projects or major categories you need to tackle during these particular times. Now, stage one, we've been in for a while, right? Where most places are allowed to reopen, takeout, curbside delivery. That model seems to be working for a small percentage. And now we're slowly getting into limited seating. And I think everyone would agree that when you look at your P&L statement, you just can't run a good P&L statement if you're based on 25%. So stage one is just about keeping the lights on. It's about keeping some connections with your employees, some connections with your guest, a tiny bit of marketing, keeping the business open. Then we slowly get into where they're lifting restrictions. And this is the confusing piece. When I first started looking at this, I assumed that we would have a national guidance, right? Some governance that says, here's what we can do as an industry. Well, right now it's piecemeal together. So one thing that we know is going to stay for a while is the social distancing. So a lot of restaurants obviously have completely revamped. So that's going to be part of it. But stage two is the critical piece to get to stage three, which is your new business. Stage two is where you're transitioning, you're looking at the model, you're looking at the staff, you're looking at the critical pieces of your business so that you're working on the right projects so that you get to stage three. The PPP, big curveball that this threw in was, here's some money, you guys deserve it. If you spend it wisely, you do not have to pay it back. So restaurant owners are trying to spend this money wisely, but they're not allowed to hire or they're not allowed to open fully, so they can't bring back all their staff. I'm working with a really great sports bar in St. Pete, and they went from 92 employees down to 8, and just the small, simple takeout model. But what he's doing, because he was granted PPP, is he brought back a real good portion of his staff. He knows that he's not quite ready for full opening, but he brought back a good portion of the staff and broke them into 3 different categories to keep them employed. First category was the product and the service. The second category was the building and the decor. And the second piece, or the third piece, was the marketing. So he brought back like 50 or 60 employees and dropped them into these 3 categories. You 20 people fix up the building. So they're running new wires and fixing speakers and painting and redesigning pictures and playing around with TVs. The group over here is working on social media posts and trying to get more email addresses and planning a marketing message so that when they come back, it's ready. The third team is working on the product and the service. They're going through the menu. They're trying to figure out what a new model of service would be and connecting with those guests. So there's a lot of things that you can do now to work on a good, solid business plan for when you come back later. So if you still have PPP money, or if you were lucky enough to get it, spending some of that now on projects that make your business stronger are a good way to go. And then the third model, I'll be honest, I don't know exactly where the industry is going. We're seeing just drastic changes right now. And I don't know if we're going to go to all of our food being delivered in the future, but plan, test, talk to your staff, get some insight, do some surveys, search the internet, figure out what your guests are looking for, what they want. We know you got to follow the governance, and we still have to make sure that the virus is under control. But this new vision of what your business could be can really open your eyes. If you understand that now, then the steps that we're walking through slowly guide you to that right path, right? If you know where you're going and you know where you are, it's a lot easier to get there. If you don't know where you're going, every small decision you make can easily take you off course. If you know that you're slowly moving to a quick service model, right? The full service isn't working anymore. So that transition, every decision you make for the next 30 days will bring you closer and closer and closer. So sit down, plan out where you're going. On the financials, that's a major piece of the planning. You absolutely, positively, you have to have a budget. You have to understand your numbers. You have to have a budget for the PPP and a good tracking sheet. And it's so critically important because of how messed up our industry has been from the financial piece. So this is your chance to reset a few of these. But what you're trying to do is trim some costs. They have gotten out of control, and I suggest you take your P&L, you print it today, and you go through it again. I don't care if you went through it last week, and I know you went through it last month and 2 months ago, but your business is continuing to change, and the decisions you make on products and services and relationships and vendors, they all add into your model. So go through and do some smart spending. So spend it on the things that are really going to drive your business forward. Look at the model. What I would love to see you do is put together 3, 4, 5 people, the ones that are really critical to your business, and talk about the model. Challenge yourselves on, you used to be open for breakfast, that's not working anymore. Do we really need a bar? Are we doing enough sales for a bar? Should we go to curbside? Do we want to go with a takeout, a third party? The model, so often we make these decisions because you're looking for little extra sales, right? Oh, we should do this on Saturday night. And it becomes a regular, never really quite worked, but it didn't hurt, so you kind of did it. And most of the times, those extra revenue centers, those extra hours, those extra events, those extra projects, they take a lot of time, they take a lot of money, and they take a lot of effort for not a lot of return. So when you're talking about events and hours and revenue sources, put it through the ringer. Make sure that every single piece is right for you when you come back. What's the model look like? Quick service seems to be a model that a lot of people are going to. I have probably 5 or 6 restaurants that I work very closely that have ripped out sections of their restaurant, put in counters, changed the menu, because the labor model is so tough. So as you create this new vision, make sure that the labor is worked into that. Our labor model at 28 and 30 and 40% labor cost, it's incredibly tough to work our business with the high labor that we have. If you save steps, if you save little tiny things in your day, you trim down on your prep, everything saves money. So work that labor model, make sure you've got costed out schedules. When we first started, we were talking about these 3 steps, right? You went into sanitation mode and everyone got clean and really safe really quick, and we're in the survival mode. Well, let's start talking about comeback. Let's start talking about what it's going to take to get you back. Now, everybody's time is different. So I'm not suggesting opening today. I'm not suggesting waiting till October, because everybody is different. But what I do want to tell you is the guest perspective is going to be critical. So whether we open up or not right now, it's all driven on, are people going to come into our business? The model of opening up to 25 or 50%, a lot of you just can't sustain that. So it's not a financial model that makes sense. But from the guest perspective, they're looking to come back, right? They're excited. We've been cooped up for a couple months, and we want to see the local restaurants that we've been visiting for years. The guests are going to have to be, a new relationship is going to be started. You're going to get a lot of different people. You're going to have a lot of different staff. The idea here is to try to change what their fear is into confidence. And the confidence is what drives our business. If I'm confident in the product and confident in the staff and confident in the value, I come back more often. You're going to have to do a ton of training of your new guest. If you have stickers on the floor or new pickup areas or new bathroom procedures, you're going to have to train your guest. But watch everything, get to know what the guests are really thinking, and it comes down to they've got to trust you. So how I've always looked at this, right? Service with style. We do a lot of secret shopping. We've been secretly shopping restaurants across nationally for 22 years. So I've always looked at it as the type of experience that I have dictates what I do next. So we always used to talk about, if you had a 90% experience, then I would dine with you once more a month, and I would pass on some good information. If it was below the 50 to 59%, then usually I'm done with you. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to whine. I'm just never going to come back. Those were based on specific things that we used to look at, right? The things that were important to us, from the quality of the food to the smile of the server to the cleanliness of the bathrooms. Well, we sent out a survey 3 days ago, and so far we've had about 1,800 people respond. And I can tell you what the priorities were 2 months ago are absolutely not the priorities anymore. Everything obviously is to do with confidence, with the virus and the safety factor. they're still looking for good food and they want to connect with people, but what they're looking for is completely different. Here's the key, right? If you can share with me a 90% experience when I come in to dine with you or to take out the food, a 90% and above for us, that's fantastic, right? You are clicking on all cylinders. Of course, you got a few areas of opportunity. But if you can share with me that type of experience 3 times in a row, and I come back and I get that 90% above, now I trust you. I trust where my money's going to go. I trust that I'm going to have a good experience. So that's what we're looking for, and you're going to have to rebuild that from a different type of perspective right now. So the reasons that the customers used to leave or come in prior is completely different. I'll talk about a guest questionnaire that I'll offer you guys at the end if you want to find out what your guests are thinking and feeling. But this is the tricky piece. So right now, it's not a priority at all. And maybe in 2 months, it still won't be. But if you're going to build your business strong year after year after year, it's got to be done on the consumer trust. They're willing to give you a pass right now because of everything that's taken place, but that won't last too long. Now we jump into staffing, a few critical pieces on rebuilding your team. First, you got to look at your core team, right? Now, if you had, let's say you had the 92 employees and you went down to 8, well, you probably kept your A plus team and the people you genuinely like working with. So that's genuinely your core team. If you had to close, then you need to re-engage with that core team. You need to get those people on your same page as quick as possible and involve them in the planning, make them feel like they're part of this recovery or the comeback. Spend a lot of time with them, but also as you're rebuilding the team, you've got to think about their needs. So you've got to think about what their life is like now and their financials and how many hours they need. So that core team, their needs probably drastically changed, and you're going to have to spend some time really getting to know them. Good hiring practice is absolutely a necessity. When I was in New York early March, the unemployment rate was 3.4%. Right? We know what happens in our industry at 3.4%. You can't find anybody. And one of the biggest questions I was facing was, where do I find staff? And that was from Flagler Beach, Florida to LA to Niagara Falls, Canada. Where do I find staff? And the old saying was, wow, you've got black shoes and you can actually work tomorrow, you're hired. And we would bring anybody onto our team. And then a few months later, we'd wonder why we were running around with our head cut off and all stressed. It's because the stress that comes into their business. Take your time, slow down the hiring process. The labor market is all over the board right now. Last I heard, it was 14.7% unemployment. That means there's some great people out there that you could pull onto your team. And there's some major challenges out there where people don't want to come back and they don't want to work in front of customers and all types of different things. 2-2-2. I want you to take the interviewing part serious. 2 interviews by 2 different people on 2 different days. Talk about this. Don't just hire the first option. Make sure that you're really planning and working through the applications and working that whole system. Then you start to rehire your staff, right? So you look at your staff in 3 different stages. You got your A plus, your core team, and then you got the employees that you were pretty happy with, and then you've got the small percentage, hopefully only 5 or 10% of the team that you were done with, right? You wanted to turn them over. Well, a lot of times when time goes past and you take an employee that was in a really bad place, they were late and they were doing all these things to harm your business, 2 months goes past and you think, oh, I'd love to bring Cindy back. I'm sure she'll be much better this time around. Well, remember what they were like before. This is your chance to reset on a lot of the staff, but understand what your hiring needs are. You should have a schedule that you know exactly how many employees you're looking for, and go less. Go with less employees right now than you think you need until you prove that the business is there. Policies and procedures, all the same old policies are going to be back, right? The cell phones and swearing and gum chewing and cigarette breaks. If those were driving you crazy before, you better fix them now, right? Go to your employee manual, type up a couple new policies so that when the staff comes back, they have the new guidance for them. And you're going to need a lot of new guidance on the health and safety. We'll talk about a couple pieces at the end. So redo your policies and procedures and look at the entire team coming back as one training package, right? whether they're there now and you've got the 8 or 9 staff or you're slowly rebuilding. Every employee should go through some type of new training. Now, training, I could flip over and let's talk about training for the next 40 minutes, but these are just a couple of the things that you kind of need to do. You need a simple training program, right? There's got to be some guidance, and whether that's a 3-page or a 95-page, you need some details in your book. The first day training should be the same for every single person that comes in, whether you're a manager or the dishwasher, you go through the same training. Then I like to break into a shadow program. So if I'm a server, I'm going to have 6 shadow shifts, whatever shifts are pertinent to my job. So I should learn the hostess, I should learn delivery, I should learn the dish area. And the shadow shifts go for the first couple days. Then you need to make sure that the managers sit with the employee every single day for 5 or 10 minutes. It's a check-in. This is a great opportunity to build a new relationship with this new employee, and it's time to find out where their strengths are and their weaknesses, and what more training they may need. Make sure that the health and safety piece is in the new training. Now, the marketing it's a really strange area right now. The marketing, you get your message out there, you build your leads, you throw out some specials, more people come in the door. But because businesses, unfortunately, are being so judged right now, we're being judged on our message, we're being judged on how many crowds, we're being judged on if we open. The marketing has to be simple and to the point, right? If you base it around the community, if you're helping teachers or you're helping healthcare workers, those are wonderful messages to put out. If you're doing anything to support your community or support your staff, that should be wonderful. If you can figure out a way to put a little sympathy in for what everybody's going through on your marketing message, that's fantastic. Just be informative, right? Let them know what hours, let them know what days, let them know a little bit of your plan, let them know that you're taking this cautious, let them know that you value you as a guest, and we can't wait to have you back whenever you're ready. It's all a matter of trying to keep in touch with these guests. If they've known you for years, you're not going to lose them because you're not open today. They will come back. Today is a matter of staying connected with them and just staying in touch and keeping them on your mind a little bit. So go very cautious with the marketing. I think the marketing efforts right now should be much more about planning for the next few months opposed to pushing out this message. So keep a close eye on the marketing and don't get too far out there. Communication, and I'm wrapping up, I've only got a few slides left, but communication has always been an incredibly tricky part of our business because we don't see the people every day. You're not with them 40 hours a week, and you might just see a server for 5 or 10 minutes. And there's so many pieces of information that change every day. So how I've always looked at communication is you've got to have your manager communications, right? For operations, the stuff that goes on every day. They've got to be kept in the loop. Then you've got your directional meeting, and please don't give up on your directional meetings during these times. Your directional meetings are your manager meetings once a week, every single week, same time, same people. Do them virtually, do them any way you can, but keep those manager meetings going. We don't talk about how we cook the food there. We talk about how we're selling the food and the bigger picture things. Owner communications can always get really tricky, right? They jump around and they go to the staff, or they make confusion between the managers. Owners right now, because there's going to be so many new details going out there, make sure you're communicating directly with your management team. Let them communicate to your team. Let them be the responsible ones and earn the respect of their staff. So communication is tricky, but communication it's a lot about the leadership characteristics. An action plan is still my favorite, right? There's so many steps to reopening. I'm amazed. I'm at like page 5 of all the steps we have to do to reopen the restaurant. And where we start was, it's a brainstorming meeting. If you're going to get any of your managers or your core, your key employees involved in taking ownership and really wanting to be part of this for the future, they've got to be involved in the brainstorming. Sit down or virtually. Hey, what are some great ideas? And you just talk about potential ideas. Then you start to rein that in to some really good targeted projects that can genuinely help you now. Then you put one person in charge of the action list. An action list is a list of everything that needs to be done and who it's assigned to and who it's going to be completed by. If one person updates the action list every single week, you throw 7 or 8 new things on there and you take 8 or 10 off, people will know what you expect of them and they will understand what they're supposed to be taking care of. I want to offer you guys a free questionnaire. So this is something that Service with Style does. We do secret shopping and training and coaching and Surveys Plus. That's a new program that we've launched. We sent this out to several different restaurants and I just found the information so powerful that I genuinely loved it. So I want to offer it to you guys for free. There's a link on here, servicewithstyle.com/free questionnaire. This is a customized questionnaire. We usually keep them around 15 to 20 questions, keep them short and simple. You get a live link that you send out to your guests and they complete the survey. You get these great stats in behind, completely free, no obligation. It's something that we're really enjoying. We've been sending out a lot of surveys. So if anyone would like to take us up on a free survey, there it is. The 3 stages, as I get ready to close here, we understand what the comeback is, right? We're trying to plan. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we're trying to plan for our future. Survival, you're still hunkered down right now. You don't know where sales are coming from tomorrow, and you're just trying to fight through this the best you can. The sanitation piece is played into every single aspect of this because of the consumer trust. So keep thinking about these 3 stages. And I just want to share a few thoughts, some different things that our guests have been telling us, how we're looking at it at the restaurant. And these are things that I think your guests are going to be thinking about. So I challenge you to think about them. Are you going to put your staff in masks? Are you going to have gloves for your staff and for your customers? We're at our restaurant every 20 minutes. We're going to do a complete cleaning. Every employee grabs 2 Lysol wipes and takes 10 minutes and wipes or 2 minutes and wipes every service. Every 10 minutes, a bell's going to go off and every employee changes their gloves, washes their hands, and puts on new gloves. Buffets, we were a buffet restaurant. I'm personally struggling with that. We're not opening again as a buffet right now, and we'll see where that goes. Temperature scans for employees, a new sick policy. You're going to have to put something enhanced into your employee manual about what your policy is. The cash handling, maybe it's just one-way cash, exact change only, no condiments on the table. Obviously, sanitizer and napkins, some places are putting them right on the tables. Prepping at night, so you separate your shifts and phase out the employees a little bit. No handshakes, no hugs, removing half your tables, but what about just removing half your chairs? So if I come out with my wife, of course, I don't mind sitting right to her, we live together. But if I come out with my neighbors, maybe I'd like that 6 feet between my neighbors, so I don't want to be at a tight 4 top. Give me an 8 or a 10 top that is spread out. A server station at the table where the server comes up, there's no chairs around there. Maybe it's taped off. All your food can be dropped there. All your dishes can be picked up from there so that the servers are not passing around. Menu boards instead of actual menus is a thought. Disposable thermometers, only one person in the bathroom at a time. Specific pickup areas for takeout or for drop-off caterings, those type things. Floor stickers, put a lot of them down. 3 or 4 just doesn't do enough to guide the guest. Full table wipes. We've bust a lot of tables in our history, and you do them really quick and super fast and a quick wipe down, but this has got to be a thorough, and you're going to have to train your staff, wiping underneath, wiping all the chairs, wiping absolutely everything. And deliveries when they come in, maybe they should be wiped down. Outside team meetings, maybe you can have some people work from home, your marketing or your admin. So a bunch of different things to think about. Patty, hopefully I didn't go too long, but I want to throw it back to you, and I appreciate you having me.
No, you're perfect, Darren. Thank you so much. It really is such a pleasure getting to hear you speak and share your expertise with our audience. We do have a lot of questions coming in, so
okay.
If you are ready,
sure.
First question: we've been pushing all of our messaging through social. Does it make sense to change to email or even sending something through the mail?
I probably wouldn't go to mail marketing yet, but I think email marketing right now is it's a great source. It really is. So social media, absolutely, but I think the email marketing gives you a little bit more of a chance to get personalized with them. And maybe that's a great place to send out a questionnaire to engage them a little bit. So I probably wouldn't go to mail out pieces yet. I think that's a little too salesmanship, where the email marketing, you can still get a good message across, but not feel like you're trying to sell somebody right now.
Thanks, Darren. What's your research with consumers? Are there specific things that people shared that would help us get ready for the opening of our dining rooms to make people feel comfortable?
Every guest that comes in is looking to see how you handled it. So I think the instant image has to be from outside, whether there's X marks on the sidewalk coming around, or signage, or dear valued customers, please read before approaching, so that they understand that some things are different. So I would take the proactive approach to training them to show them the cleanliness. Then don't be afraid to, hey everyone, sorry, I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Every 20 minutes we all stop and do a quick cleaning or a quick sanitizing. I'll be right back with you. So share the message. I find that the consumer right now wants to know what the business is doing. We sent out a survey, the one that we did last week, and one of the questions was, how much do you trust that the businesses are doing everything that they can to ensure your safety? And we only had 19% of people say that they trusted that the businesses were doing everything they can. So you've got to show them. You've got to have something smack in the face that, oh wow, look at, they took this really serious. And I think a spread out floor plan and a lot of the points that I went through, your guests are going to notice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Darren. Next question is on training. Do you offer guidance on what should be included in the new employee handbook regarding the new normal and how to best train?
So if anyone wants to just email me on training, again, it's a real big package, right? There's certain projects inside of restaurants that hardly ever get to because they're too detailed, right? Costing cards, recipe costing cards, it's going to take you 40, 50 hours. Not a lot of people get to those, and the training program is the same. So if you would like some more information on training, send me a quick email, darren@servicewithstyle.com, and I can send you an employee manual that works really well for me, and we can email back and forth on some policies. But the employee manual is the starting point. The orientation for employees is the next step, and then it's right into training, and any good training program follows up with some type of accountability testing follow-up. So bring your staff in, get them all the details, get something in writing with an employee manual, a training program, and then some testing and some follow-through.
Great, thank you. Next question is on menus. We cut our menu down when we were offering takeout. Is it best to keep a smaller menu, or do you go back to offering a full menu right away?
I may be the wrong person to ask on this, but I am small menu all the way through. I have just seen the struggles behind the scenes with larger menus, from too many products, poor ordering, not counting inventory because it was too big of a project, and never really having a handle on it, never having the consistency. I like as short and tight, and I think that based on what we've went through, that your consumer is absolutely going to be perfectly fine with a small menu. So I keep it as short and simple as possible. And I go to, you got to pick out the profitable items. You can't be selling your chicken wings at 42% food cost right now. It's just not going to work. So you've got to find those products that genuinely work for you, cost every one of them out, and keep it small. And I think for the equipment package and the amount of staff and the amount of prep and the amount of time that you walk around a kitchen filling out your prep list, there's just so many steps to a large menu. And a lot of places don't have high enough volume to consume all the extra labor. So smaller menu, smaller labor cost, smaller, less things to do every week.
Thank you, Darren. Next question, would you be able to provide some guidance or suggestion on the best way to monitor employees' health before they come back to work? How can we know if they were sick or tested the last few weeks?
That's a tricky one. That's really tricky, right? They say that you can have this for quite a while with symptoms, passing it around with never knowing. So the temperature scans, I guess if you look at it, it's your hygiene, right? They're washing their hands, it's the masks, it's the social distancing, and it's the temperature checks. Outside of getting tested, I don't know any other means around that, but that's the biggest challenge of this, right? My office is still closed because everybody is working from home. We can do that. We can't do that at the restaurant. So our biggest concern with reopening is getting somebody sick. We know we can execute the food and we'll figure out the menu and we can get some marketing, we'll get some people in there, but I just don't want to get anybody sick. So I take that responsibility pretty serious. And the most preventative that I'm seeing is the masks and the temperature scans. So I see a lot of places doing that with all their employees coming in.
Great, thanks, Darren. And before we go on to the next couple of questions, would you be able to, I think you had a slide, 2 slides back that had your email address. A couple of people are wondering, maybe we could just put that up. So if anybody needs your email address, we have it right there. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. And I just wanted to remind everyone too, please keep the questions coming because we do have some time. So let's see. Our next question, Darren, how would you structure your management team right now? Like who on staff should be responsible for overseeing all of the changes that need to be made?
Well, a lot of places get into a tricky scenario with their management labor that it's a big place to run and there's a lot of moving parts. So we need more people, we need more people. And then the staff gets a little bit more effort needs to be put into the staff and it takes away from the manager. So you continually add hours and grow the management team. I think that's part of the model that just simply hasn't been working, that the management cost has gotten away from us in the industry. I know a lot of restaurants paying 9, 10, 11, 12% in management cost. It's a lot of people floating around to take on management. So the first piece on that is sit down and do an organization chart, right? The management structure comes in a few different pieces. First, it's an organization chart so that there's clear titles and positions so that there's a good chain of command on to decision making. You have to have one GM. Typically, we're a front of the house manager, supervisor, and a back of the house. That's usually the triangle that we run with. But after that, it's covering shifts and simple. So I look to key employees to take on more of a role at this time. And after you get the organization chart, then you go to the schedule, right? You got to have a manager there, and that's where we use these key employees to fill in some of the gaps. And then you look at the responsibilities. So what does every manager have to get done? So if you organization chart, schedule, and responsibilities, take all those into effect, and the responsibilities a lot of times can be spread around. And maybe an admin person would be much more valuable than just having a manager floating around walking the floor. Try to keep the dollars simple on this. If you have managers that have been with you for a long time, sometimes the salaries can get carried away and it might be time to renegotiate. They're hard decisions. I get it. I love my management team and I don't want to do anything to disrupt that. But the reality is that the business just isn't there and we have to make changes. So organization chart, schedule, which means you've got a manager there when you need them and what responsibilities they should be taking care of, and just try to cut it. When you get into the responsibilities, you can maybe hand the ordering off to a really good cook, or you can hand the schedule off to a key employee to save some of that time.
Great, thank you, Darren. Next question. This is an interesting one. If we can only have limited seating, how do we keep those people waiting in line? Any suggestions?
I would say back it up out the door, and weather obviously becomes a factor. But one of the places I worked with, Mother's Day, they were just really starting to open. And I said, you're a pretty popular place who has everything under control inside. I said, what are you going to do when your parking lot fills up and you've got 40 or 50 people at the door? So they just went with X's all the way around the building and lined them up down the sidewalk. And they put up some nice poster boards outside with the new policies and rules, and basically just asked for everyone's cooperation on the new policies.
Thank you. Next question, a restaurant opening. We are going to open another location of our restaurant. Do you have any indicators as to when we would be the right time, or do we wait until 2021?
So the different restaurants that I'm working with, right? We're in Florida. Typically, we just missed our season, right? We should have just been coming out of our peak season. So a lot of restaurants are hurt. But a lot of them are looking at reopening and saying, why would I want to reopen in June, July, August? So I've got a lot of restaurant owners that are just literally going golfing for the summer, and they're going to come back and open in September or October. A second restaurant goes along those same lines. Now, opening a second restaurant, you've got to have your systems and you've got to have your management team in place, because a new restaurant can just suck up all your cash and hurting number one. So make sure that the timing is right. Right now, I would rather hold off and wait. We've seen a couple openings in Florida. We had two different restaurants get shut down because they did a ribbon cutting and they had way too many people, so they've come out with apologies. So don't market it too much. It's more like, shh, we're open, and ease into it. And I know that's tough. The financial considerations would be what would be driving my decision there. You can only go so long without pulling money in. And if you're in a needed place, then I would open in a limited capacity and get a few dollars going in there, realizing that the next 6 months is going to be tough because you didn't get to open with a bang. But if you can hold off until the environment is a little safer and you can open with a bang, that's what I would suggest. It's tricky. Sorry, I don't have a perfect scenario for that one.
No, I think that was great. We have a couple of questions surrounding about employees refusing to be tested. So I'm just kind of grouping these together. But question here, the mayor of our city is offering free mass testing, both for COVID and antibody, for all employees. It will be a scheduled one-time visit. But how do you handle a situation where a few employees refuse to be tested? What is your suggestion there?
Well, this is a new one, right? We don't deal a lot in labor laws with testing them for viruses. We deal with that with testing for drugs and different things like that. But it's got to be based on your policy. And if your policy is consistent with all of your employees and you're not doing anything to break the law, then that's your policy. And if your employee doesn't want to work in that environment, then that's their choice. It's again, it's a tricky one. Everything we're dealing with, the virus is new and unique. So if you're set on testing them, it's research that you're not breaking any law. I don't think that you are, and make sure that it's in your policies and procedure manual. Make sure that it's the same policy for every single one of your employees. You can't discriminate. So.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. So Darren, we have one last question, and I wanted to get your thought on this. What model do you suggest, do you like best going forward?
So, well, personally, what we're doing is going to the quick service model. It's the cashier at the door. We're trying to limit the amount of contact. We're trying to limit the amount of trips to the table, and trying to absolutely, positively limit the amount of staff in the building for numerous reasons, right? Financial and virus. The quick service model, I think that as society, we have absolutely got used to that. Chipotle has taught me that I need to bust my own table and get my own drink, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So that's the model that I like because of the labor costs that we typically see for the counter service or the quick service. And pay at the door, less trips to the table. It just makes it a little easier. And right now, there's still just a lot of places that are in the curbside takeout delivery mode. And we had a conversation about that at the office yesterday with my team, talking about secret shopping. And a lot of our customers are coming back just to do takeout delivery or curbside shops. And we thought that they would wait until the full restaurant was back open and start secretly shopping then. But everybody we're talking to is, well, this is going to be a standard part of our business now. We're going to keep with this model and keep going. So I think takeout is going to be still the major emphasis, at least for another 6 months. And maybe we start to get back into 95% dining and 5% takeout, but takeout's going to be there for a while. So I like the quick service with the three model, the takeout, delivery, and curbside. And a lot of people are putting curbside delivery, takeout kind of all wrapped into one, or third-party delivery. But there's so many differences between those that I want you to think through those. That the favorite model from our survey is order, pay over the phone or pay online, pick it up, no signature required. The curbside attendant basically opens up the back door, sends it in. So it's the most non-contact type of service, and that seems to be the favorite from everybody that we're dealing with. Delivery and the touch-free curbside, so lessen the contact.
Great, thanks so much, Darren. Thank you so much for taking the time today to share this information with our audience. It's always a pleasure. I hope everyone found this as valuable as we do. And I'd just like to remind everyone that you will receive a copy of this webinar recording via email within the next day or so. And it will also be added to our foodandbevshows.com resource page. So please make sure to check that. You can find other industry education and previous and our upcoming webinars. So Darren, if you have anything else you want to add, otherwise we'll say goodbye for the afternoon.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great, thanks so much. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.